The Rise of Electric Vehicles, a Global Shift, written by Fareed Zakaria. The 21st century has witnessed a remarkable transformation in the automotive industry. Electric vehicles, or EVs, have emerged as a viable and increasingly popular alternative to traditional gasoline-powered cars. This shift has been driven by a confluence of factors, including growing concerns about climate change, technological advancements, and government incentives. From bustling megacities to quiet suburbs, EVs are rapidly changing the way we commute, travel, and think about transportation. The environmental benefits of EVs are undeniable. Unlike their gas-guzzling counterparts, EVs produce zero tailpipe emissions, reducing air pollution and contributing to a cleaner, healthier planet. Moreover, advancements in battery technology have significantly increased the range and affordability of EVs, making them a more practical option for everyday consumers. Governments around the world have recognized the transformative potential of EVs and have implemented policies to encourage their adoption, from tax breaks to subsidies to investments in charging infrastructure. A history of innovation, government support, and market growth. The journey of the electric vehicle has been marked by both challenges and triumphs. Early EVs, while innovative, faced limitations in range and performance, hindering their widespread adoption. However, sustained investment in research and development, coupled with government support, has led to significant breakthroughs in battery technology, power electronics, and charging infrastructure. These advancements have paved the way for the development of high-performance long-range EVs that can compete head-to-head with their gasoline-powered counterparts. Governments have played a pivotal role in fostering the growth of the EV market. Recognizing the environmental and economic benefits of transitioning to a cleaner transportation sector, policymakers have implemented a range of incentives to encourage EV adoption. These incentives include tax credits, subsidies, rebates, and exemptions from vehicle registration fees. Furthermore, governments have invested heavily in building out charging infrastructure, making it more convenient for EV owners to charge their vehicles. The China factor. A surge in European imports. China has emerged as a global leader in the electric vehicle market. The Chinese government has prioritized the EV industry, investing heavily and providing subsidies. The rise of China's EV industry has significantly impacted Europe. Chinese EV manufacturers are exporting a growing number of vehicles to Europe. Leveling the playing field, the EU's rationale for sanctions. The European Union's decision to impose sanctions on Chinese electric vehicles stems from concerns over unfair competition and the protection of European jobs. The EU argues that Chinese EV manufacturers benefit from significant government subsidies, giving them an artificial cost advantage over their European counterparts. These subsidies, the EU contends, allow Chinese companies to sell their EVs at artificially low prices, undercutting European automakers and threatening jobs in the European automotive sector. The EU's investigation into Chinese EV subsidies is part of a broader effort to address what it perceives as unfair trade practices by China. The EU has expressed concerns about China's industrial policies, which it argues distort competition and harm European businesses. The sanctions on Chinese EVs are seen as a way to level the playing field and ensure that European automakers can compete fairly in the rapidly growing EV market. The EU maintains that its actions are necessary to protect European jobs and industries from unfair competition. Immediate impacts. Consumers and automakers caught in the crossfire. The EU's sanctions on Chinese electric vehicles have sent shockwaves through the automotive industry, with immediate consequences for both consumers and automakers. For European consumers, the sanctions could lead to higher prices for Chinese-made EVs, as tariffs and other trade barriers are imposed. This could make EVs less affordable for some consumers, potentially slowing down the adoption of electric mobility in Europe. On the other hand, the sanctions could benefit European automakers by reducing competition from Chinese rivals. European automakers, while facing increased competition from Chinese EV manufacturers, are also grappling with the challenges of transition into electric mobility. The shift to EVs requires significant investments in new technologies, manufacturing facilities, and supply chains. The EU's sanctions could provide European automakers with some breathing room as they ramp up their own EV production and work to catch up with their Chinese counterparts. However, the sanctions could also stifle innovation and limit consumer choice in the European EV market. Global trade tensions, a new front in an old battle. The EU's sanctions on Chinese electric vehicles represent a new front in the ongoing trade tensions between the two economic superpowers. The US and China have been locked in a trade war for several years, with each side imposing tariffs on billions of dollars worth of goods. The EU has also clashed with China over trade practices, accusing Beijing of unfair competition and intellectual property theft. The sanctions on Chinese EVs are likely to further escalate trade tensions between the EU and China. Beijing has already condemned the sanctions as protectionist and threatened retaliation. The escalating trade war between the West and China has created uncertainty in the global economy, disrupting supply chains and raising prices for consumers. The sanctions on Chinese EVs are just the latest example of the growing economic rivalry between the world's two largest economies. Supply chain disruptions, the ripple effect of sanctions. The global automotive industry is highly integrated with complex supply chains that span multiple continents. The EU's sanctions on Chinese electric vehicles are likely to have ripple effects throughout this intricate network, potentially disrupting the supply of critical components and raw materials. Chinese companies play a significant role in the global EV battery supply chain, and the sanctions could lead to shortages and price hikes for batteries, a key component in electric vehicles. The sanctions could also disrupt the supply of other critical components, such as rare earth minerals, which are essential for the production of EV batteries and other high-tech products. China is the world's leading producer of rare earth minerals, and the sanctions could prompt Beijing to restrict exports of these critical materials, further disrupting global supply chains. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that the EU's sanctions are likely to have far-reaching consequences, impacting businesses and consumers around the world. Environmental concerns a setback for sustainability. The EU's sanctions on Chinese electric vehicles have raised concerns about their potential impact on the global transition to sustainable transportation. China is the world's largest EV market and a major producer of electric vehicles and batteries. The sanctions could slow down the adoption of EVs in Europe as consumers face higher prices and limited choices. This could have negative environmental consequences as it would prolong the reliance on gasoline-powered vehicles, contributing to air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Furthermore, the sanctions could hinder the development and deployment of clean energy technologies such as EV batteries and charging infrastructure. China is a leader in these areas, and the sanctions could stifle innovation and slow down the pace of technological advancement. The global transition to sustainable transportation requires international collaboration and a coordinated effort to reduce emissions and promote clean energy technologies. The EU's sanctions, while aimed at addressing unfair trade practices, could have unintended consequences for the environment and the fight against climate change. The road ahead. Navigating the future of the global EV market. The global electric vehicle market stands at a crossroads. On the one hand, the transition to electric mobility is gaining momentum, driven by technological advancements, government incentives, and growing consumer demand. On the other hand, the EU's sanctions on Chinese EVs, coupled with ongoing trade tensions between major economies, have injected uncertainty and volatility into the market. The future of the global EV market will depend on how these competing forces play out in the coming years. The EU's sanctions highlight the challenges of balancing free trade with the need to protect domestic industries and jobs. As the global EV market matures, it is likely that we will see more trade disputes and geopolitical tensions arise. Governments around the world will need to find ways to address these challenges while fostering innovation and ensuring a level playing field for all players in the EV market. The transition to electric mobility presents both opportunities and challenges. and navigating this complex landscape will require careful consideration and collaboration among governments, industry leaders, and consumers alike.